Hello, everybody. We're sitting here in Provo, Utah with Joe and Jenna from English Budgies. We're in Provo, but you guys originally hail from Oregon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Southern Oregon.
Let's get started with a couple rapid fire questions. You ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're not too hard. I always scare people. I'm like, you got this. Buckle up. Okay, we'll start off with a would you rather. And this one I had to ask down about earlier because I'm from a city and we were driving in rush hour traffic to get here. And I thought this would be a good would you rather. Would you rather, for the rest of your life, always hit red lights? Like every light is a red light. Awful, right? Or always have slow internet.
Oh, slow internet. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the opposite of what we thought of. Please
We
explain.
already have slow internet.
Oh, you do? Okay.
We're used to like not getting things done.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Not
Yeah.
kidding.
We stop when the phone breaks, and we're like, oh, this is us now.
Oh,
Yeah, it's-
you're like, just bring it on. It's nothing.
Yeah. This is our
no,
everyday life.
I could have an hour to get somewhere 5 minutes away, and if I get like 3 red lights, like I'm in like road rage.
Road rage.
Yeah. Time is of the essence.
Even
Yeah.
if it isn't.
Even if it isn't. Yeah.
Like, wait, slow internet? I don't know. Okay, this one was like near impossible for me to answer myself. But if you could bring one person back to life, out of these...
Summer.
Stop!
Oh, sorry,
Can you read?
I didn't-
Can you read my phone from there?
no. Is he one of the people?
Yes. I was.
I just thought that was like open ended. That you could be
I
anybody.
was just saying, out of these two people, Joe Strummer or David Bowie, though.
Oh, Joe Strummer.
Joe Strummer.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
Okay, The Clash is one of my favorites, but you.
Yeah. So, do you like
Tell
Joe
us.
Strummer and the Mescaleros?
I do in the Mescaleros. Yep.
I love that. Like that to me is like one of my all-time favorite. Like just like 2 or 3 of the albums that he did are just like mind-blowing to me.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
They are.
Well, and I feel like Joe Strummer is like, you know how they refer to comics like a comics comic? Like Joe Strummer is like a musician's musician.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
For sure.
whereas David Bowie is, you know, he's just so big. I just feel like
He's
even
a
David Bowie would want Joe Strummer.
Oh, Bowie had the perfect out too. Like he had like an album or 2 ready once he was dead. Like
Right.
to bring him back,
That's
I feel
true.
would almost be injustice. But like Joe Strummer, like
There was so much left to do.
Yeah. I could hear 100 more albums by him and love it. So.
Aw, that's awesome. I cannot believe I'm in total shock. I'm like,
So this week I was watching, I think it was like his Glastonbury set from like 99 or 2000. And it's just like, oh. I
real
love
close. Because he
Yeah.
passed in 2003.
Or
2, I think.
Wow, 2002. It's like 20 years. Can you believe that?
that. That's crazy.
I know my jaw's to the floor. I'm like, wait, can you read my mind? I found you guys on Instagram, and I noticed like there's kind of a theme through some of your posts. Orange.
Yes.
So, as Jumper Cable Records, our colors are orange and teal, and we just love it. But I want to ask, like, why orange? So, let me preface this a little bit for our listeners. So, you guys have like pictures in the orange jumpsuits. You changed your amp frame covers into orange. So, why orange?
Why? That's a good question.
Well, you know, like one day I just woke up and I realized like I love orange. Like I never did. To me as a kid, it was like the orange candies were the ones that sucked, so I like avoided it.
No orange Skittles for sure.
Yeah. But then like one day I just like I was like, I love this. So like that kind of like lighter orange that we
Okay.
have on everything.
The tangerine orange almost.
It just kind of like turned into a like, oh, we need to do something. What color should it be?
Yeah.
Orange, and then
You know.
pretty soon our whole lives are this, and it's just, it's a bit chaotic now.
Yeah.
You think so?
We
I
love
think it infuses. It's like very life infusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's very like groovy. It's very 60s and 70s.
Yep.
And so it's just kind of fun to see. But I think also part of that was when you think of the White Stripes, I mean, you think of that album cover, you think of the red and white, right? And so we weren't necessarily trying to copy the White Stripes, but we just thought, oh, people remember us because all of our stuff is orange.
Yeah.
And like, even if they can't quite remember the name of the song, if they remember orange, like maybe they can find us on Instagram and find us on Spotify.
Is
So
that like a Pavlov dog effect? Yeah, they
Yeah.
see the orange and
they're just eating an orange and humming. Like
we're conditioning people, really.
Exact. Well, no. For the musicians listening, that's like a good strategy to use for branding. Like, use a color, become a color. But listening to all your music, I mean, I can hear different influences. At least I think I pick up on like Pete Doherty, and I can hear like Violet Femmes, and I don't know. Some things remind me of like bedroom punk, like Goldfinger. I don't know.
We're gonna have to write these down.
I
I
know.
don't know that
I've
we know.
never heard any of these. I'm so excited.
Oh, really? Okay, The Cure, or like some of them sound like the Smiths to me too.
Yeah,
like
that's a big one.
You
That's a
have
big
like that vibe. But who were your first influences, like as individual musicians, and then, yeah.
I can go first.
Yeah, go for it.
When I joined, it was kind of like, oh, I need a bassist. Can you join the band? And I suddenly went from a student to dropping out to being in a band, right? Mm-hmm. And so I had no real songwriting experience prior. I was just learning how to do bass. And so that's why I love The Clash, was because Joe basically said, like, what bass sound do you like? What do you want to sound like? And it was The Clash. I want to sound like Paul Simonon. I want to sound like a P bass, right? So that's what decided the bass. And then as far as songwriting goes, I read a book from Bruce Springsteen where he talked about he was this kid, what felt like the middle of nowhere. He didn't know anything. This is what he knew, so he just wrote about that, which was girls and growing up in a blue-collar town. And then that kind of just wrote all of his songs for him, right?
Yeah.
And so I knew that I wanted to sound like Paul Simonon. I knew what I knew, so I wrote about those things.
Cool.
But since then, you just kind of listen and try to pick up on other stuff. But that's kind of what started it for me.
For me, it's always like, I feel like there's like a thing, like a quarter, you know, just go through such phases. Like start of English Budgies, it was huge Smiths. Mm-hmm. Everything was the Smiths, or like Modest Mouse was a big one. Lately, I mean, Wolf Parade has been like one of my biggest.
Wow.
I love them. Mother's been a big one. I had a friend turn me on to them.
Cool.
And, you know, like I said, Joe Strummer's like one of those life ones, just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Petty's always been up there. And, like, so Jen and I bonded in high school over, like, the Beatles and Paul McCartney.
Paul McCartney, yeah.
Yeah, like, Paul McCartney solo albums, we'd just be like, dude, I got this one. And, like, we'd go, you know, I'd be able to get, like, a cheap, like, worn-out vinyl of something for, like, $3 at, like, a shop back in the day. And
Yeah.
so, like, that was so exciting because it was, like, you had access to 10 new songs.
Well, yeah,
And, like,
that's huge.
yeah. Before Spotify and all that.
Yeah, before it became hipster to have.
Everyone's so
vinyl.
lucky to have with it, like all the streaming now.
Oh, yeah. Just the access to all that music and all the way back. Well, you guys had an EP come out in 2020, Face This World. It was mixed and mastered by Dan Konopka. Is that how you say that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How can you tell us about that experience? Like, how did that all come together?
Yeah. It came to the point where we wanted to do like a collection of songs at once. Like the mood felt like it was like time to do like more than singles. Because it always just made sense to do singles, and it felt like it made sense. And we posted a listing that we were looking for a mix and master on these 6 songs. And Dan Konopka, who's the drummer of OK Go, he reached out to us, and we were like, that's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And he's like the nicest guy on earth. Like,
That's
just,
amazing.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful human. We still like keep in touch with him a little bit. He's
That's so
just a
cool.
sweet.
Well, and I think something we did learn too was it's hard because, you know, the more money you have in the world, the more you can do with it, right? So, like,
We're not an EP band. We got enough money for one song.
well, that's kind of how it used to be.
Yeah.
Was, you know, we were broke newlyweds, and we would save up all of our savings to put out one song, right?
Yeah, or like if we needed a microphone, like you got like
that was a big deal to pay, you know, even just $100 to mix the drums was just like, how are we going to do that, right?
Absolutely,
Because
yeah.
that's what it costs, is hundreds of dollars sometimes. And so I would say that, like, if you're trying to decide, like, regardless of money, regardless of if you even have the songs, you just need to, like, set a date. I think if you really want it and it sounds like a good idea, if you just make the decision to set that goal, it will happen eventually. Because we did not have the money or the songs to do that. Yeah. But it just kind of works out if you just have it as a goal and you work towards it.
If you guys had any piece of life advice, just a takeaway, something that has stuck with you throughout your life, or maybe something you've recently heard, what's something that you would want to share with the world?
You have anything?
I do. You actually taught me this. Well, the Berklee School of Music book taught you this. And then you taught me this.
What's it called?
It's the
Effortless Mastery. It's a book that I believe is required reading for entry to like Berklee School of Music. My friend Landon turned me onto it.
But I read the book after you were raving about it. And one of the things it talked about was you'd have these professional musicians who had been playing for 20 years, and they would know they had to practice their instrument, and they would, let me just clean the house. Let me just do my laundry. Let me just wash the car. Let me do and then it's 8 o'clock at night, and they haven't practiced, and it just builds and builds, and it gets really stressful. And how this author was saying, you stop thinking of, like, practicing for an hour, just practice for 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And how that mindset really changed how I approach music just in general, because learning the bass and practicing every day just seems like such a huge obstacle and so overwhelming, especially when you want to be the best that you can be. And so sometimes I find myself cleaning the whole house and like doing everything else besides what I know I should do, and then it just becomes unbearable sometimes to pick up that instrument, and it just makes it so scary. But thinking in my head, I'm just going to play for 5 minutes, you naturally just end up playing for 20, for 30, sometimes 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, and it just feels effortless and not so scary. So for anyone out there who knows they should be practicing, wants to practice, but it just feels really stressful and scary, I would just say, first read the book, Effortless Mastery, and then just pick up your instrument. Don't worry if you have to be somewhere in 30 minutes, just pick it up for 5, and then chances are you're going to play not only for 5 minutes, but for as long as you need, and sometimes even go back to it later in the day. That's my advice.
I love that. In this world full of distractions, I feel like it's becoming increasingly harder and harder for everybody. Like, we all feel that, where it just becomes unbearable, like you said. It just, you just keep pushing it down your list, and then your list gets longer, and it just feels so heavy. So I love that. Thank you. The pressure is on.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. Gandhi-like statements to say. I don't know. For me, I've kind of just done what I wanted in life all the time. And it's great. Like, I know some people in their minds, they think, like, I have to get a degree. I have to own a home. I have to have a kid by a certain age. I have to get married by a certain age. But, like, just enjoy what you're doing. Do what you want to do. Like, there's nothing I'd rather do than play music. You could tell me, like, you came back from the future. You'll never make $1 at this. I'd be like, cool. I'm gonna get back to playing, like that's just
great.
That's just how I am. So.
And you brought up that you're married. I don't think I even introduced you guys like that.
Yeah.
Quickly,
we don't even like people ask if we're like brother and sister. I'm like,
we get that a lot.
Yeah. Really?
I think we're siblings. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Well, I wouldn't think that. I personally wouldn't think that, but it did make me want to ask. Like, real quick, I'm just gonna put this question in there. Favorite thing about playing music together?
The first thing in my head was like the least things I like.
You can share those too. Worst
no,
things.
I like it because, like, at the end of the day, we get to, like, come home to each other, like, band practice ends, and we're like, oh, yeah, that was good, yeah, or, oh, I need to do this, and then it's a lot of fun. Like, we basically, like, kind of share everything, so, we can be driving, like, do you remember that venue we played 3 years ago, and they had, like, this in the wall or something.
They had a Jesus breakdancing.
Right over there.
That's what we're gonna talk about. We're like, there was breakdancing Jesus on the wall.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
I would say the best thing, it's going to detour that, is that when you have to have conversations telling the other person your singing wasn't very good, or when he tells me your bass playing isn't in tune, you have to redo it. Like, we have to sometimes be really harsh with each other. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of the best and the worst thing, because your feelings get hurt a lot, but I feel completely comfortable communicating with Joe about anything, because
same.
I've literally had to break his heart a million times with a song, or
Yeah, you come in with a song, she's like,
and you're so excited, right? And then I go, that sounds like a family sitcom intro.
I get that one a lot.
That happens a lot.
The last segment we want to do is just a shout out segment. So whoever you want to say hi to, thank you.
Our friend Flip at Aggressive Audio, he's been so sweet. He's mixed the last few tunes we've done over since probably like 2021, and he's just wonderful to work with. And
avid supporter of local bands, super supportive of the community, really knows what he's doing. Is always learning too, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, you get some guys that are kind of set in their ways, but he's always
looking at new stuff. Yeah.
Let's see. Our friends in the band Soap just put out a wonderful new album. Yeah.
Soap, cool.
Charles, we love you.
Love you, Charles.
Join our band. Yeah, the guy in the band, he moved, and the first thing I said was like, "How are we gonna be in a band together now, dude?" He's like, someday. So
Someday.
still counting on you, Charles.